But the way I see humanity is we're just little babies. You know, I had this meditation and it says that if you put out your arms and it represented the Earth's geological time frame, and you took the edge of your fingernail off, that would represent how long we have been here.
So we first met in a little guest teaching that you did with Dent Global, and I was really struck. It was only maybe 20 or 30 minutes or so, but I was struck at your authenticity and how deep you were able to go through a video chat with a number of people so quickly. So I can see how you're good at what you do, coaching coaches. And just a little setup, the words story acceleration, for me, that's a philosophy and a framework. It's the idea of we're living out stories every day of our life, and these stories are rife with conflict. There is no such thing as a story without conflict. And how we get through those stories is, basically that's learning life's lessons. And this creates a positive feedback loop of acceleration and progress, if we'll let it and if we'll be truthful and authentic. So we don't only learn from our stories, of course, we learn from other people's stories. So with that, I'd love to hear some of your backstory and what led you to this vocation.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I like what you were saying there about this feedback loop. And it's hard for some people to understand that at certain stages of their life because they see evidence that they can't necessarily have what they want rather than what's actually happening, which is just an opportunity to learn something so they can grow and have more of what they want. So that's a fundamental shift in mindset that I made. But it took me a while to get there because I had a lot of failure in my life. I was pretty successful, did okay financially, but was utterly unfulfilled for most of my life until I was 30. But I was just hungry to wake up every day, to just love what I did, to love my life. So I was on a mission trying various businesses. By the age of 30, I'd tried at least 25 different things, all of which failed for one reason or another. And I had this pattern of, when things got tough, I was always very ambitious and very enthusiastic. People would want to work with me. Investors would want to give me their money. And then when things started to get tough, I would start talking myself out of it and decide it wasn't for me. And some of those decisions were true, but some of them were not. And then I would fail, recover, start again, and, on to the next thing. And then when I was 30, I had a moment in London. I lived in London for a while, and I was in a relationship. It was a new relationship, and I'm sure when you're in relationships, that's when you start to really get the chance to really see what you're made of and to see what you're bringing to the table and everything that you need to learn. And I was in this pattern with her, blaming her for the situation that we continued to be in. It was kind of stupid drama stuff, but for me it was her fault. And she kept saying, it's nothing to do with me, and she must have said that 15 times, and I said, yes, it is, 16 times, over the period of this few weeks. But anyway, she returned like, it's really nothing to do with me, Ryan. And I just thought to myself, she keeps saying that. What if this has got something to do with me? And I honestly had never asked myself that question. I'd read some books about stuff, but I'd never done any real development on myself by that point. It was actually the first time I took all my attention here. And until that moment, I was right about everything. I was right about everything I was right about, my views, my opinions, my beliefs. And in this time, I questioned myself for the first time ever. And my whole life flashed in front of me to the point where I thought I was going to pass out. And I let it hit me as I started to see this continuous pattern of things not working, relationships, communication, friendships, whatever it might have been. And the consistent factor through all of that was me. And I said, look, I need to go home. So left her there, went home, went into my apartment, walked up the stairs, went into my bedroom, jumped on the bed face down and sobbed in the pillow for 4 hours as I started to be struck by the reality of my life versus what was going on in my head, aka another story. And it was devastating. I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. All the time I'd wasted, all the bullshit I'd created, the bullshit I'd put up with, the lies, the pretending, the stories that I wasn't capable. All of it was being brought to me as a thing to see rather than to be stuck inside of, and it allowed me to really release all of this baggage that I'd been unknowingly holding on to for 30 years. So halfway through this 4-hour crying transformation session, it turned from devastation to more of an illumination, transformation, and I was like, this is actually really good, because now I can see clearly. Now everything I was confused about, all of a sudden I had a lot of clarity around. So I woke up the next day, called all my ex-girlfriends, and I apologized. I called all my family and I said, why don't we tell each other we love each other? I love you. And I was crying and they thought I was going crazy, but they let it in. And then I wrote a list of all the things I wasn't proud of. And then on that day, one by one, I just started taking them on. From stealing money when I was a teenager to not paying my overdraft to the bank and then disappearing, this whole list of things. And one by one over the period of 2 years, I just cleaned it all up. And on that day, what I got, I knew I wasn't the only person that needed to get that. And so that was the start of everything for me, because I just wanted to share everything I was learning to anybody who was willing, open, and ready to listen.
Wow. That's amazing. And what I'm hearing in that, a big part of that was that you took ownership quickly. Like you felt the weight of it and you got past denial and into action mode. And you said it take 2 years to work on that list.
Oh yeah, it was a long list. And it I couldn't put into words what we were just talking about now. Like, what was it that happened? I just knew like this was right. I felt it in my core. But I later, as I learned more about myself and went on a journey, I learned, I was done pretending. So I started immediately getting authentic about how I felt, what I wanted, what I was thinking, what was important for me to say. I was done being a victim. So I took responsibility for everything. I was done not feeling good about what I saw when I looked in the mirror. So I got my honor back by restoring my integrity. And I wanted to have my life be more about making money. So I started being a contribution instead.
Wow. So authenticity, you just used that word right then. And I remember I've watched a few of your videos, and of course in the session we were both in, you talked about authenticity quite a bit, and something that I'm very keen on learning and discussing and deep diving. It's part of our framework here is always striving to be authentic. And to me, that it's a very close cousin to being truthful. Talk to me about the importance of seeking truth in all aspects of life, and maybe especially business, given the background of business. Yeah.
I love the question. I love what you're pointing to. I actually made a live few weeks ago, and I said, look, there's 2 golden nuggets I want to give you. I'll give you one in this one, and I'll give you the other one in the next one. This is the most important stuff, some of the most important stuff I've learned. Number 1, tell the truth. Tell the truth no matter the cost. No matter your perception of what the cost might be, because the rewards and what will happen at the other end of the truth is unimaginable, but it will be exactly what you want and what you need, even though you might not realize it right now. So always tell the truth. So for me, it's incredibly important. If you're lying, what you're really doing is blocking what you actually want. And why you do that is because you're frightened of what will happen or what they will say or what might, but it's all the mind, right? It's all the mind. The truth, when you're telling the truth, you're actually aligning with powers way beyond what we see, feel, and touch. And then when that alignment comes in, all the things that we want start to show up. And because we're in that truthful energy, which is very high vibrational energy, then yeah, it shows up and we can allow it to come in. But when we're lying or denying or having a problem telling the truth, where our vibration is low, things don't show up. Even if they did, we wouldn't see them because we're too busy in our heads. So it's a big one for me. And the ability to go to bed at night and sleep peacefully comes from that. And that's of great importance to me. And when I wake up in the morning, I'm just, good to go and get on with my day. And just, by the way, the second video I promised those people who were watching was take time for yourself. Take time for yourself. I don't care how many kids you've got. If you've got 10 kids, take even more time for yourself because you're going to need it. I don't care how busy you are, take time for yourself. It's the most important way that you can connect with yourself, recharge your batteries, recharge your energy, so that you can go and be more powerful in all your pursuits. And if you don't take time for yourself, you won't really get to connect with what's alive inside of you, and you'll just be like a headless chicken. You'll be busy, you'll make things happen, we always do. But the amount of energy that it would take is 10 times the energy it takes when you're energized and centered and grounded, and that only comes when you're spending time by and for yourself, even if it's 20 minutes a day. But have that time for yourself.
That's practical, tactical advice, and I really appreciate that. Everybody loves practical advice, actionable advice that they can take. Staying on that topic of truth seeking for a moment, what do you say to the person who maybe has pretty deep negative habits about lying to themselves and lying to others? I mean, what if they don't even know how often they're not telling the truth? Is there practical advice you can, other than the taking time, because I think that's incredibly important, what advice would you give to that person?
Well, first of all, if that kind of person is listening right now, first of all, I want you to know it's okay. There's a reason why you've ended up finding that strategy to survive. Something happened. Somebody said something. You had an experience. I knew somebody that was just a habitual liar. She couldn't stop. Why? Because when she was young, her mum beat her up. And she learned, if I tell lies, I won't get a beating. So no, it wasn't me that dropped the glass, right? So I have a lot of compassion for all expressions of humanity. So whoever's listening, and if that's something that you resonate with, it's okay. And deal with it. And a really practical way that you can deal with it is allow yourself to get connected to how your lies are affecting you. Because there's an effect. And because you're so busy in your life, and you're busy with the TV, and you're busy with the kids, and you're busy with the phone, and you're busy lying, you're completely numb to the effect that your approach to telling the truth or not is having on you internally, emotionally. So you've probably numbed yourself out. So my invitation is to allow yourself to bring some awareness to how it's actually affecting you. Best way to do that as another practical step is just sit and close your eyes and just allow yourself to get in touch with how you actually really feel about yourself and the lies that you've been telling, or the challenges that you have with telling the truth, or the fear that surrounds it. If you can feel it, you can heal it. But it's another challenge for human beings. We learn not to feel. We were either told, don't do that, dry your eyes, be a big boy, or we learned it was a bad idea because, people laughed at us, or we got excluded from the group. But it's insanity.
I think I've said that to my sons. Feel a little pang of accountability right there. Yeah,
and this is what a lot of my the other business that we weren't sure if we would talk about, or my other work, I would rather say, it's centered around this. It's called Profound Impact Coaching, and it really is profound, and it's incredibly simple, but it's just really teaching people how to think, which is not to get caught up in the thoughts, but just to observe them, and teaching people how to actually really feel, like really, really feel. And I've worked with thousands of people, thousands in the last 13 years, and very few of them could actually really feel how they felt. And so it's something to learn, because we could do that when we were young. Kids will cry, no problem. But then, of course, life happens. Then we learn, close that off, turn that off, block that off. All sorts of strategies to avoid having to express those strong emotions. But it's, feeling is as required and natural as breathing. Because if you're not feeling, you're dead anyway. So it's so I would allow you, just to kind of circle back, allow yourself to feel yourself about what's going on, and don't be scared to feel how you feel, because when you allow yourself to connect with yourself on that level, on the other end of it, on the other end of that suffering, there's a wisdom. And this is something that a lot of people don't understand. They are shit scared to suffer. So they back away from it. But actually, if you go into the suffering, if you lean into the suffering, if you can be with the suffering, if you can feel the suffering, however it is mentally, emotionally, and you can be with it and be with it and be with it, you will have a transformation within your awareness and within your body and within your spirit and your mind.
Wow. By this point, the audience of listening to this podcast or watching this podcast can sense your authenticity and your calm confidence, the way that I was able to when I first met you. And I'm curious, I'm sure a good part of that is your personality, but as someone who's suffered pretty greatly with social anxiety, and I've always been someone who could push through, but it still was always there and something I had to keep working on. And I'm just curious, what is your calm confidence something that you've continually cultivated and worked on? And have you worked with others on that very topic?
Yeah, I was always a confident person, although it was masking a lot of insecurities. But the more I went inside, the more I went here and put my focus here, rather than what they're doing or what she's doing or what might happen over there, the more I got profoundly connected to myself. I got to see all the things that we don't see when our focus is outside of ourselves, because our eyes are open most of the time until we go to sleep, which means that our attention is outside of ourselves. So I spend a lot of time in meditation. There's been days I've spent 5, 6, 7 hours in meditation for 5, 6, 7 days, depending on what I was going through, depending on the need. And that level of time with myself, excavating my own internal world, because it's vast and rich in there for every one of us. You get to really see what's going on that had me act that way, what's going on that had me behave that way, where that result came from: fear, attachment, neediness, fantasies of the mind, decisions from fear rather than the heart. And in that process of allowing myself to be with all of that, there comes a really incredible release. And in that emotional release, because we're releasing old stored up emotions from 30, 40, 50 years, depending how old you are. And that emotional blockage cuts us off from our higher intelligence, because then we're just stuck in our heads because we're not in our bodies. So when you release all of that, you're then in alignment between head and heart, rather than just head, which is where most of us are living right now. And then with this alignment, well, then you know who you are. And it can't be described, but it's profound, and it's a state of peace and calm and bliss and gratitude and humility.
As it relates to helping someone else come to that realization on their own, or get there, as you were just talking about, I'm not a professional coach like you, except that I do lead this organization here, and of course I'm a father of 6, so there's certainly some coaching that happens. To me, a good coach is part cheerleader, part arbiter, part therapist. It seems like it can be challenging to read what the person needs in any given moment. But no matter what, it seems like you have to have a genuine care, or maybe I use the word love for that person. Is that accurate?
Yeah. so much of this will come with experience of the job, but most of it comes from our experience with ourselves. See, the more that we are loving with ourselves, the more that we are at peace with ourselves, the more that we can see ourselves, the more we can love others, the more we can be at peace with them, the more we can see them. What I've found is that we're all exactly the same. We look different, we have different characteristics and personalities and expressions, but when you cut us open, we function in exactly the same way. So because I know everything about me that there's possible to know in this time that I've had, I'll find out the rest later today and tomorrow and on it goes, because it never ends. I find myself often knowing exactly where my clients are at, exactly. And if I don't, then I'm open to curiosity. I'm very good at knowing where it is. And if I don't know, I'll just trust my intuition. I actually had a coaching conversation a few weeks ago, and my client told me something in confidence, of course, and it was something he was absolutely ashamed of, but kind of convincing himself that it was okay. And I knew that wasn't okay for him or the people that it affected, but I could see that somehow he had made his peace with it. So I was like, okay, I will wait. Years ago I would have said something there and then, but this time I'm like, hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna wait, because right now I'm not sure, which means for me that's a no. If I'm not sure, it's no. So I'm just gonna wait, but I know for sure that there's something that he can't see. I also know he's here because he wants to learn from me, on this call. So I waited and I waited and I waited, and then he told me something else that was connected to it. And it was like, okay, now I know. Now I know we need to go there. And so I trusted and I was patient, and then this thing he said left me in absolutely no doubt that it was time to talk about it. We talked about it, it was tough. But he was so grateful that he did, and he had an incredible breakthrough because of it.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that it's a timing thing and waiting for them to give you the permission to weigh in on what you see.
Yeah, or ask for the permission. There's so many ways. I teach a method of coaching called no method. Forget everything they taught you. That was their experience and opinion. And trust your own experience and opinion. Is lean into the edges. Try things, trust yourself. And in that process, you'll discover more about how you can support people. So I coach from absolutely no boundaries, no rules, no limits. I coach from everything I know about humanity based on my own awareness of my own humanity. And it's beyond coaching, really.
It gets me to think about the idea of, so you were talking about feelings a few times up till now, and the importance of them and how we've numbed ourselves. It feels like there is also the flip side where we may be feeling something that is leading us to think something that's incorrect. How often do you find that, and maybe this relates to the story you just told, how often do you find that you have to help the person navigate towards evidence-based objective truth rather than simply what they might be feeling?
Yeah, I had a journey with this kind of thing, because when you're learning about helping people in this way, you're learning, you're still, not exactly sure, and it's part of the process of learning. And I almost used to do a lot of the heavy lifting for my clients. And then when I got what I got for myself, then I saw, do you know what, they need me to facilitate certain things at certain points, but often they don't need anything from me other than the permission to check what's true for them, and the guidance to check what's true for them. So sometimes my coaching is, some of the most powerful conversations I've ever had were the times I said nothing. Right? So if they are guided to connect with what's really going on inside of them, because that's what this is all about, they will tap into a superior level of intelligence that they never were able to connect with before, and they will find their own truth, their own wisdom that comes from here, not here. It's also important that they understand the fundamental distinction between thinking as real versus thinking as thoughts, right?
Explain that a little bit more for me.
Yeah, so the world's waking up more to how we function, and but where we've been and where most of us still are is that when we have a thought, we believe it's true. When we have an opinion, we believe it's true. But we don't even know we believe it's true. It's just the way that it is. And but what's actually happening is there's just a whole bunch of noise in there. So when you slow down and you start to learn how to think, because nobody taught us that, right? We had to kind of figure out on our own as adults to do mindset work. But when we get to a certain point, we can see and observe every thought as it rises, and then we're aware enough to be like, okay, let that one go. Oh, okay, that one's interesting. Let that one go, because that's a whole bunch of nonsense. Oh, that one's interesting. So that's a really, really important skill. And they don't teach it in school, but I believe in the future one day they will. And the other thing with this feeling thing is like really allowing to feel and feel and feel and feel and feel and feel. And again, nobody taught us that because our parents didn't know. But this is where humanity is evolving, in my view. Conscious thinking, conscious feeling, conscious action.
Wow. As it relates to conscious action, for our entrepreneur audience that are, again, looking for, they're willing to dive into some of these deep thoughts, but they're also grinding day to day, right? One of the things that you've spent a decent amount of time teaching and coaching on is the money conversation. You talk about how you're really not, and I'm paraphrasing here, but you're really not having a conversation until you get to the money conversation. It's sort of like a polite preamble before that. And then, so do you see that as, why is that so difficult? Is it because there's suddenly risk for people? Like, oh, now we're getting that, you instinctively know you're getting to the meat, or is it just because, is there deeper psychological things going on? Like, do I really have this value? I'm about to make the ask about the money, or do they see, like, what break down for me, what are some common reasons for that level of anxiety in that part of the conversation, and what to do about that?
Great question. Yeah, so most coaches, not all of them, but most coaches will have this experience at least once, many of them 100 times, where the client really wants to work with them. They offer their fees, and then it's like running for the hills and they don't know how to handle that. And what I say is the real conversation starts when you've offered your fees. Everything before it is really, really nice. In the coaching world, it was powerful, it made a difference. But we're still just talking about it. And there's only so much you'll get by just talking about it. Where we get real transformation, breakthroughs and results is in committed action, which happens over time. So the opportunity to invest is for your client to get into committed action over time, training and development, growth. So that's at that point when the client is faced to actually do something, because everything before it was talking about it, then what that drives up is the real reason they haven't already done it, which is their fear of failing, their undeservability, their lack of self-belief, their unworthiness, their not good enoughness, all of that human conditioning that everybody has to one degree or another gets flushed up where you say 10K, 20K, even 500. It's going to get flushed up because no matter the price, really, it's going to drive up the real stuff that's going on in the background, because it's time to commit. And then, so when coaches don't understand that process, they'll be nice and don't want to be salesy, and they'll probably lean out when they actually should be leaning in, because that's when the rubber hits the road. If you're going to help people have a breakthrough, which is your job as a coach, that's the perfect time. That's the perfect time, because when that person gets what they need to get to say yes and here's my credit card, they've had a breakthrough. Even though they were scared, even though they were terrified, even though they had no evidence it was going to work, and they still did it. Well, that's what it's about. That's how you create an incredible life. So if they're committing in that space, then they're going to go to bed that night like all sorts of excited, nervous, like sweating, but they're just not the same human being anymore. And then they're on a pathway to more. So I still have people emailing me from years ago. Thank you for that first call. Thank you. I was about to walk away, and my life has changed a million times over, but not only that, I've changed so many other lives because of that call. Because I'd been, in this whole money thing and fear thing and not good enough thing for years. And then after that call, it was either gone completely or I had enough that it could just disappear, and that's what's happened. So yeah, there's a big opportunity in that conversation, but it takes a lot of skill because it's coaching, and it's coaching of the highest degree to help people overcome their fears. So it's something I've mastered. I teach it. I've had these conversations hundreds, if not thousands of times. I know exactly how they go, exactly. And when they start telling me that they would love to, but they can't because of the money, I'm just kind of like rolling up my sleeves, getting ready, time to dance.
So you don't feel the nerves in those moments, or do you sometimes feel the nerves still? I should ask.
Never, but I did, of course, before when I didn't know what was happening. I would feel frustration, I'd feel attachment, I'd feel anger, I'd blame. I went through all of it that most people can relate to because I didn't understand what was going on. In fact, I was making it personal. Then I was projecting, right? But when you understand something, you can affect it in a very different way. So I understood exactly what was going on. So I was in a great position to affect it. And because I had so much experience, I was mastering that craft every conversation. So then I started teaching it to coaches, and of course they go and they start having more people say yes.
One of the things we teach about as it relates to story acceleration is writing down all these valuable stories from your past so that you can process them and learn and ask the honest question of what did I really learn, finding the morals in the stories. How much was that important for you when you talk about having tried 20-something businesses by the time you were 30? Have you found any benefit in reviewing and looking back and processing the things you've learned from those different startups? And specifically writing, has writing made any impact?
Yeah, everything I learned about all of that, I learned it in those earlier years from the story I told you, which was 13 years ago. Everything I'm learning now is usually from whatever's went on in my life in the last 6 months, or in the last 6 days, or in the last hour. And because I'm spending a lot of time in meditation, which is basically like me going in to say, okay, what's going on? What's working? What's not working? What do I need to be aware of? What do I need to feel? What do I need to see? I'm picking it up as soon as as quick as it possibly could. So, and then I'm very proactive to correct it, to get it complete, to get in communication, to say what I need to say. So I'm very much learning every day. I'm learning more now than I've ever learned, in fact. And I spend more time on myself. It's funny because my girlfriend says, because I'm like, hey, let's meditate, let's go. And she's like, don't you want to go out? Don't you want, I live on an island, right? It's like paradise. And she's like, don't you want to go out? And I'm like, yeah, I do, but I just really love it in here. I really love it in here, but it's true. I need to go out more. So that's the running joke. Like, I need to get out more, literally. With writing, I've had spells where I was really like just trying to understand what worked for me, how it was best for me to learn. And I did have plenty of times in my life where I was journaling in a notebook. I have a Remarkable now, or writing notes. I don't need that so much anymore because I just get everything from meditation. But one of the things I did use in a practice of writing when I was trying to teach myself to be more aware of my thinking was when I would catch myself procrastinating something or feeling anxiety or fear, I would get my notebook out and I would write down, what must I be believing about myself that I'm feeling this way? And I would slow it all the way down because I had no idea. I just had enough awareness because I knew enough, but I just didn't know how to get it, as I can get it now. So I was like, wow, I believe I can't do it. And then I would write that down. And then I would look at it. And I know it's bullshit, but it had me, it had me by the throat in a way I didn't know. These things pull the strings in the background. So this question, getting my pen out and my notepad, was bringing it from the back of my mind into the forefront. And when you see it, truth is obvious. This is when truth is really clear. Like you cannot deny it. This is just a story. This is so ridiculous that I can't, what was it at that point? It was like I was writing a first draft of a book years ago. I was procrastinating. Wow. Really procrastinating. And I was like, what must I be believing that I'm procrastinating? This is too hard to write a book. I'm like, this is crap. I've already wrote 40,000 words.
What are some common mindsets that you find among? I'm always fascinated to compare. I don't want to say different occupations, but just all types of different people. And I'm always looking for patterns and things. So do you see the same patterns among business leaders that need coaching and coaches? Do you see, what are some common mindsets that you see among coaches even? That's interesting to me.
Yeah, there is a pattern, and I could write a book about it. Maybe one day I will. And I talk a lot about these. One for sure is imposter syndrome. And I've also experienced all of these things, and the way I experience it is with awareness, and then I'll be like, wow, that feels horrible. No wonder they get stuck on that, right? Because that stuff, something like imposter syndrome, really will take you out of the game if you're unaware of it. So I had times where I was like, ooh, and every time I got to another level in myself or in my business, maybe standing on a stage that seemed bigger than the last one, or something like that, I'd have that, and these things will go away or they'll dissipate, but it's just bringing the awareness. So I really get how tough that one is. Fear of failure is just massive, and what that comes down to is a lot of fear around being found out that they're not good enough, because if they fail, in their mind, everybody will find out, everybody will know, and they cannot handle the potential shame of that. So that's what's going on with fear of failure. Then there's the other one, which is slippery, fear of success. I always love it when I hear people tell me that's their reason why they're not taking their actions. Because fear of success is actually a smokescreen. So when I go, okay, so tell me, if you're successful, what is it you're frightened of? Well, I'm frightened of I'll be overwhelmed and I'm going to have too much money, too much clients. Okay. And then what are you frightened of might happen then? Well, then I won't be able to do my job properly, and I'll be burnt out, and I'll disconnect with my kids, Okay. And then from there, what are you frightened would happen next? Well, then I'll probably start losing clients because I'm not serving them, and maybe I won't want to do that business. Maybe the whole thing will start falling apart, and then what happened there? From there, it's like, well, I'll just lose it all. So what you're really frightened of is failing. Yeah. So fear of success is a very clever, egoic way of masking up the truth, which is just frightened to fail like the rest of us. But it sounds better, and it's a way better idea in our mind, because it's a bit cooler to say I'm frightened of success, but it's just all the same stuff. So I would say there's kind of like top three, but the big one, of course, which is all rooted in, is I'm not good enough. That's the core fixed idea of every human being in this planet. And they're in a battle with themselves because it's also a lie. Part of them believe it, part of them don't. And they're like in this fight, like I'll go, I'll start, I'll try, I'll fail, because they're not connected to themselves. They're just in their head.
The friction of cognitive dissonance, that thing of I believe it, I don't believe it. I know that I don't believe it.
Yeah, I know that this is not true, but I still haven't done my Facebook Live for the last 6 months just because, even though I know, right?
Yeah. Do you do affirmations, or is just that type of thing come in your meditation time?
Yeah, I don't do affirmations. But I did. I mean, at the very start of my journey, I always remember when I was leading events at the very early days, long time ago, I was petrified, absolutely petrified. But again, I knew what I was dealing with, but it was in me, it was in my blood, my system, my body. It had been in there for 30 odd years. And I always remember, I would stand in the shower every morning. I can do this, I'm good enough. So that was my version of affirmations, because that was like the core idea I needed to have, because the core idea I had was that I'm not. So I just was I was bashing that out in the shower every morning before I'd leave to do the job and walk up in front of the stage and do that kind of stuff at that point. But most of in fact, all of my stuff now comes directly in meditation, and it's, I'm really humbled and grateful what I receive when I'm in that state, and it is profound. The wisdom that gets to come in when this heart and head is connected is indescribable, really.
I've had moments like that, and I certainly want more of them. One of the things that I do and what we do is and what I notice is that when we tell the stories of those who we've helped, and they're genuine, truthful stories, and we say them with humility, of course, tell these stories with humility, that we're also telling ourselves every time that we're telling someone else. And that has certainly built my confidence and started to eat away at imposter syndrome over time. Have you experienced that, or has that just been like a phase in your journey? Talk to me about that part of it, without, obviously you're not divulging your clients' secrets or private things, but just the stories of outcome and evidence-based truth. Has stories helped you that way?
The work that I get to do, I'm so grateful for it, and I'm so humbled by that opportunity. The amount of people I've impacted is, you just couldn't count it, and I get in touch with that regularly, and it keeps me grounded. It settles me, because I don't get carried away with it. I'm just like, fucking hell, thank you. Because I don't necessarily get it from the stories, but I get it from the coaching. So every time I coach somebody, that's when it gets fed back to me, right? So even something happened today, and I was coaching somebody, and I have this method that I've created through everything I'm sharing with you. I call it transcending. It's about going beyond the mind, back into our heart, which is, in this alignment, because we're not just our mind, we're not just our heart, we're all of it. So it's to go beyond those limitations and reconnecting to ourselves. And I've been taking people through this method for the last 6 months, and the better it gets, the more impact, this profound experience. And I something shifted today when I was having an experience with somebody where I just helped them get there into this place of so incredible joy and peacefulness and bliss, just like that. And it was because of the way I'm doing it. It's because of the energy that's coming. And I observed, wow, I thought it couldn't get better, and it's getting better. It's getting better. And I'll share something with you. It's kind of private, but it's true. I came away, this particular work doesn't really feel like coaching. It feels to me more like healing, because there's a lot of releasing for people, and they really get connected to their intelligence, their consciousness. And I came away from that call, and I thought, I can do this with my mum. And the minute that I had the thought, I burst into tears. I'm very close with my mum. I love my mum. She's went through a whole lot of stuff. I know she's still holding on to stuff, and I tried to help her in various ways in the past, and some of it worked, some of it didn't, but it wasn't me directly. But then I realized today I can actually help my mum. And then I realized I can help my girlfriend's dad. And I realized, I can help my little brother. He's been a bit sick. And I know it's this emotional stuff that people are holding on to, and these conversations in their mind that are unconscious. So I'm having a call with my mum tonight. I'm going to have a session with her. I called my brother and I said, I need to talk to you. Can you be free at 8:30? And he's like, okay. He got something's important, so I'm also talking to my brother tonight. I have a friend coming over right after this call. She's a very dear friend to me, and I know she's dealing with something. And I'm like, I'm just gonna do my thing with these people that I really care about.
Well, that's deeply meaningful, and I'm excited and encouraged for you that you have that confidence to go to those super important places and just know how to guide it. That's amazing.
Exactly. Because I wouldn't want anyone to listen that's a coach thinking what I'm saying is, go and get your mum to be a client, or it's not that. And of course, many people would have tried probably to coach there. This method is very different. It's very gentle. It's very non-evasive, but it's really, really powerful. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna give that to them.
As we wrap up, I hope you don't mind me asking a few more questions, deep questions about just to get to know Ryan Mathie more, the deep inner you. Sort of white pill, black pill. Do you believe the human race is getting healthier or less healthy?
Healthier.
Happier or less happy?
Okay, on the broad spectrum, we are going like that. Healthy, happy, time, those axes, it is a line like this. This is how I see it. But in the years that we're in, this period of time that we're in, it looks like all the way down, So my answer is healthier and happier to all of it, although it's very hard for people to understand that or see it. But the way I see humanity is we're just little babies. I had this meditation and it says that if you put out your arms and it represented the Earth's geological time frame, and you took the edge of your fingernail off, that would represent how long we have been here. We're just little babies. We're making stupid mistakes. We don't know anything. We're walking around banging into walls and trying our best because we're still growing and we're still learning. But in time, like you have, like I have, we will grow, we will mature, we will wake up. It won't be in our timeline. It will be well after, maybe your kids' kids, something like that. I don't know when, but I know for sure it's coming.
Yeah, we tend to think that we're so far along because we gauge things, technology has changed so much and whatnot, but in terms of wisdom and understanding, it's a totally different ballgame. And I think a lot of that does relate to our being able to navigate and deal with suffering. To talk about what you were referring to in the very beginning of the podcast.
Yeah, if we can learn how to suffer and be with it, things will radically shift because we're so petrified of it, and then we bottle all this stuff up, and then we suffer endlessly. Because if you go through suffering, you dissolve it.
More on Ryan Mathie. Do you believe in God, or what do you believe as it relates to the idea of God?
Yeah, I speak to, so God as a religious figure. I don't believe in religion, but I believe in there's a power way beyond us. I connect with it every single day. I talk to him. In my mind, it's a him. Sometimes I ask him to take some of my burden if I have some burden, and I thank him. So yeah, it's my own. In my imagination or not, I don't know, I don't care, because when I connect up there, it feels incredible.
How much do you, this may be just opening too big of a can of worms, and we may need another podcast for this, but do you find your moral reasoning from that power? Like, is that where you get morals from, the idea of morals?
No, that's always came from here. Yeah, I think where it really came from is love. And I don't mean that in the wishy-washy spiritual. I mean, my mum was very loving with me. I experienced unconditional love from her. Not my dad, but I made peace with my dad. Everything was great with my dad before he passed away. But I had the privilege of experiencing complete unconditional love from her. And it kind of set me up to be able to have my heart open and to want to do the right thing. And I didn't always do the right thing. I'm not saying I lived a perfect life. I didn't. I did a lot of stupid shit and made a whole ton of mistakes. But I always came back to that. And, as I shared, cleaned up a lot of stuff and try and keep it as clean as I can. So for me, the morals came from what was in my heart. And that was possible because I've experienced that kind of love, and I've got to love like that. And when you're in that type of heart space, you want to do the right thing, and you know what it is. We have to learn about these things. It's not just something that you can just connect with. I had to be taught about values. I had to go deeper into what I'd learned for myself to make more intellectual sense about it. So it's all connected. It's not just here. It's this combination of these two. So I had plenty of things to learn, and I had plenty of great teachers teaching me. So it's this combination of having experienced love as a kid, and then everything that I experienced as an expression of love from all the wonderful people in my life. And then whatever I learned for myself.
Three more questions. We'll make them short. Where in Scotland are you from?
I am from near Glasgow, a little town, 15 minutes in the car, a little town called Bellshill. With all due respect, a kind of dingy little place. Not a place I would ever go back to. However, I was featured in the Bellshill Speaker, which is the local newspaper, and I also had an article in Forbes. The Forbes article came out 3 weeks later. The Bellshill Speaker, the local newspaper, came out, and I was more excited about that. And it really taught me that there's just no place like home.
Wow. Yeah, I Scotland. I'm very fond. I lived in West Kilbride, which is on the west coast, right? Another 30-40 minutes from Glasgow for about five months. So I did love it, but also experienced all the challenges, right? The depressed little towns and the hard-headed people that were it wasn't easy to develop a relationship quickly, and so I have such a love and fond memories of Scotland.
That's cool. You do have a little Scottish look about you.
Yeah, it's all part of the heritage. Final two questions. What's your least favorite part of your work?
My least favorite part of the work would be, probably the marketing side of things. Really, I've really figured out business. I've built a great team, but my passion is the difference I get to make. I just want to show up and talk to people. I don't want to have to worry too much about statistics and numbers and algorithms and all those things. So but I'm learning to make my peace with that more and more. And one of the ways I'm doing that is just having great people around me. And I need you to do the business part. So I'm in a process of shifting out of the business part so I can just focus on everything that I'm talking to you about. And this guy is just super passionate about the business part. So it's, it would be that for sure.
And I think you have answered my final question, which is, what is your favorite part?
Yeah, it's the growth, so that I can share it and make a contribution to others. It's what's driven me for a long time. I get to, really feel energized because I just love that I get to deal with myself and show other people how they can learn these kind of things too.
Well, Ryan, Mathie, thank you very much for your perspective. It's been awesome to talk to you, and I hope we stay connected.
We will stay connected. It's been great to be here with you, and I appreciate your questions and the space that you've held. It's been a really incredible experience. I've loved it, so thank you.
Awesome. Where can people find you?
So you can go to highperforming.coach. You can go to YouTube, searching the same thing. I'm all over LinkedIn, Ryan Mathie, or good old-fashioned Google will take you on a journey.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir.
Cool. Thank you.